Well, thank you, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I'm Iñaki Berenguer, managing partner at Life Extension, a 100 million venture capital fund investing in longevity solutions to extend the life of people and planet. And before I was a tech entrepreneur. But today I have the pleasure of interviewing Martin. Martin is one of the most successful European entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, where he moved 30 years ago. And now he's running Diamond Foundry, a leading tech company in the diamond industry that, according to some articles that I read recently, you have raised close to $500 million in funding for this company, despite that they have been operating under the radar. And by the way, if you haven't read about Diamond Foundry, you can check them out at df.com. I don't know how much you paid for that domain. I read the other day that AI was sold for 10 million, but I'm not going to ask you about that. So Martin, thanks a lot for coming. If you can talk a little bit about your career as an entrepreneur, you moved to Silicon Valley and what you have been doing during the last 25 years.
Absolutely. Thank you for the introduction. And it's great to be here and back in Europe, in wonderful Madrid in particular. As you mentioned, I was actually born in Munich, Germany, and then as quickly as I could, went to Stanford in California to study computer science, and have lived there ever since. Since recently launching a Diamond Foundry project here in Spain, and so I'm excited to be here and excited to see the startup environment that I'm so familiar with from San Francisco. And haven't connected with them much yet in Europe, and so super exciting to see all this here. My background originally is computer science. I started internet companies in the first kind of .com boom, messaging companies. I mean, at Stanford I went to basically shared an office with Larry Page and Sergey Brin, and since Larry Page did not want to do a startup, he rather wanted to license it, do enterprise licensing, or sell the company. My first company was started with Larry's brother, and the engineer who wrote the entire first version of the Google code, which must have annoyed then Larry to the extent that he said, let me start this company, called Google. But I think after that boom, and I had sold this company back then, I was starting to think about what to do next, because I was retired for like 3 months, and it occurred to me that energy is a $1 trillion market, but virtually no one, I mean, Silicon Valley, all these tech entrepreneurs, no one working on energy, anything energy related. And so I thought, like, what are we going to space, The beauty of solar technology, converting sunlight into electricity, is just like a marvelous and stunning fact. And so I started looking at this segment. And due to my connections into investors and software mostly, I was able to translate this into raising enough capital, ultimately $640 million of capital for the very first solar tech startup in Silicon Valley, funded by venture investors.
When was that?
I was in 2003, exactly 20 years ago. I was with Benchmark Capital at that. My prior company, I had Sequoia Capital invest in us. I got kind of my MBA by working 2 years with Michael Moritz at Sequoia Capital. And so that was in solar tech getting started on more efficient, cheaper solar cells. Back then, solar electricity was the most expensive form of electricity. The bet was it actually ought to be the cheapest. Now, it did become the cheapest form of energy, and 5 years later, like 3,000 startups went after this. And none of them did well because, it's just competitive and hard, some spaces. But that was the advent of solar tech. Now, a lot of these engineers, we were looking what to do next in 2010 plus, and similar to solar, the marvel of that effect. Diamond has the most extreme properties in like a dozen different ways, and we knew we can make solar inverters better, different technology, and so we started focusing on making diamond abundant and cost efficient for technological applications. Now, we were also lucky to have an ancillary industry, the jewelry industry, to pay the bills for 10 years to allow us to iron out the core technology. And that's where we ended up scaling large operation. We're the largest producer in the world now. And we have a foundry in Washington State. And we're now building in Trujillo, Extremadura, what will be diamond production that's as large as the largest diamond mine in the world. So that's happening in progress right now. And the product, what we do is kind of as green as it gets. We crystallize methane, the greenhouse gas methane, we crystallize it into diamond, create wafers with a diamond to be used in electric cars, AI chips, cloud chips, etc., to make things more efficient. So it's a nice full cycle of this. And so as part of this, we created the world's largest sized diamond, larger than has ever existed on Earth. And I actually have it in my pocket. So if the Spanish military could secure the exits.
Can we see it?
So so here's this is the first diamond wafer that ever existed. It's a single crystal. So every atom is a red spot of a lattice, and it has a wafer surface, meaning the roughness is basically one atom up or down. It's like complete polish. And so we're now working on getting this type of thing power every compute chip and the electric car power electronics, because the main problem in technology at the foundational level today is heat dissipation. Things just get too hot, and you throttle your performance by the maximum temperature you can tolerate, and so diamond just dissipates the heat a lot better.
Well, thanks for bringing that here. But when I think about diamonds, in my mind, I don't have this. Well, first of all, when I think about diamonds, I don't think about technology. I think about mining. But the second thing is, I don't think about microchips for electric cars, for artificial intelligence, for data centers, what NVIDIA is going to be using, or Intel, or AMD, or all the chip manufacturers. What I think is about jewelry, right? Necklaces, rings. So can you talk a little bit about the use cases and how you envision this industry evolving?
Yeah, jewelry, diamond industry and jewelry applications has a long history, from Leo DiCaprio's blood diamond to Russian diamonds flooding the world and financing the Ukraine war. I think that's itself a big industry. It's a $100 billion industry, diamond jewelry. So we're feeding that through supplying rough into this industry. And we've come from a point where the old diamond cartel has been putting every obstacle up and degrading man-made diamonds left and right. We're coming from that point to broad-based consumer acceptance. We have seen the market fraction of people buying engagement rings, etc., go up tenfold over the past couple of years. And we now have, we're feeding virtually a really broad range of retailers and jewelry industry. At the materials level, we feed them. Our own brand, Vray, VRAI.com, directly also showcasing what can be done with man-made diamond. We'll have a store on Ortega y Gasset and Serrano. You know, if you special discount code for any startup founder. But so this industry is evolving. It's where our product basically supplants uses of a diamond that mined diamonds could cover. But we're now getting into use of a diamond that mined diamond cannot do. You know, this diamond I just showed, you know, if you cut this out of a mined diamond, it would cost like $60 million. So you can't power many chips of that. So we'll see this transition happening at a very foundational level of technology. You know, if you want a fast AI chip, etc., we're kind of feeding that, and we're very excited about working on those topics. We're working on electric cars as well, the power electronics. So this is one of the things at a very foundational level, but it does improve efficiency and energy consumption, and electric cars and the power electronics is a key driver for managing the energy in our car, and etc.
Let's talk a little bit about entrepreneurship after having built so many successful companies. And timing about riding the right wave. You moved to Silicon Valley at the right time, like in the mid-90s. You were with Larry and Sergey, the founders of Google, in the same lab when they were starting their company. You were starting yours. You rode that wave of like value creation and innovation on internet. Then you moved into solar, probably you were one of the first entrepreneurs getting into solar, and now into diamonds, that nobody's talking about diamonds in tech. Can you talk a little bit about how important it is to be early or very early or just a fast follower, and your learning?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you would expect me to say it's very important to be very early, but you know, I want to qualify that to the extent that this is just my personal skill set. It's a skill set you acquire obtaining PhD training, etc. So, I mean, this is what I enjoy doing and what I do. So, what I do will always be early, and then a lot of people following. It's not necessarily the financially best bet, you know. So, if you just want to make a lot of money, honestly, being the follower is clearly the best avenue. Google was a follower, you know, with dozens of search engines out there. Zoom was a follower, you know, they were video conferencing out there. Stripe is a follower, you know. So the benefit of being a follower is that you know, you're not ahead of the venture capital and other investor pack that doesn't think like you as a very early guy. So they and their buddies like to see proven categories, and it's a lot easier to get rolling if there's established category, established need, and then you can come in with a better. You do need to have a better product, obviously, when you come in late, and that is what Google, Stripe, etc. all have done. So it is one of these things about. I mean, it's a theoretical discussion. At the end of the day, you know, I always believe, you know, you gotta, if you do a startup, you need to have the founder company fit just needs to be there, and even before the product market fit and these other things come. So I think that's just important. You know.
And let's talk a little bit about fundraising as well. You have been one of the most successful entrepreneurs raising funds. Sometimes you say that is not the metric of success, but at the same time, you have raised over $2 billion across all your companies. And you have also raised from very good investors, like your first companies were backed by Sequoia, Diamond Foundry, like based on the news, like you were backed by not only Leonardo DiCaprio, but the founders of eBay, Twitter, Tony Fadell, the inventor of the iPhone. So talk a little bit about advice for fundraising, how important is who you raise from, and other piece of advice for young entrepreneurs here.
Yeah, there's so many different options, and there's many classes of capital one can access, and one kind of needs to be a little bit inventive in a way that fits to your business on many matters. because there's no point if one gets negative feedback from 5 or 7 people in the same category, and then there's so many classes of categories. I believe very much in figuring out what's the best fit for the business at what stage. If anyone gets an offer from Sequoia Capital, obviously I would, they're singular investor. If you get money from them, just take it at any terms, because they have a strong signal function like no one else, obviously. But other than that, depending on your experience level, how much exposure you had, it's good to sort investors into the bucket. Are they really going to help build the business? And it's good to have select few of them. Some of the younger funds too. These are people who need to roll up their sleeves and make it happen. 3 of those. But at the end of the day, $1 is $1 too, and so one can also fill up funding with people who just don't need to value. There's all kinds of ways you can get value add, board members and whatever. So you don't need to pay up for the money for this, and so it's just important to not give those types of people, those types of investors, any rights. You don't want to have them on their board.
What about individuals, right? Leonardo DiCaprio is an investor, but also the founders of Facebook, Twitter, eBay. Tony Fadell obviously is a legend.
Some investors help you out. They participate in your marketing, like Leo. Leo doesn't have much signal function for Wall Street, obviously, but and currently at Diamond Foundry, we went actually from angel investors, people who write $50 million checks as angels, to sovereign funds and Fidelity, etc. So there's different journeys possible. I think I would, one main piece of thought I would have is it's good to manage the upside as well as the downside. Especially when a business is successful, the stakes just get very high. And so some investors can have a negative influence too on the health of a company. And so in terms of the extent of greed to engage, so that's just very important to manage too. And on the case of success, once you added someone to the board, you just typically cannot get them off the board anymore in a startup. So it's just important, the person's, and not even the fund. The biggest fund names are great, but it all boils down to the person, the team one builds.
Very quickly. About team, right, and executives, and aligning the best talent, and attracting the talent, retaining the talent. Any advice that you can give?
Yeah, my own approach is to really get the top skills on board. A good mix of skills, but kind of like really getting be pretty uncompromising about the skills engaged. Pay up for this too, but require people to be hands-on. So basically, require senior people to be hands-on and actually thin out the middle management, and this way also be fairly capital efficient, because you'd rather have fewer people who know what they're doing and actually do the work. And so I think these days, from venture investors, that is an accepted practice too. I think this is a change actually over the past 20 years that even Michael Moritz would talk about. Back then it was like, hire as many engineers as you have. In order to get acquired for $200 million, you need to have 200 engineers. So like a little bit of manpower thing existed 20 years ago. These days we're fine with tight teams.
Final and very quick question. So after 30 years from Europe into Silicon Valley, now back, spending more time in Europe, in particular in Madrid, what do you prefer, a burger or Spanish ham?
The beware of either or questions. Good test. I'm the and type of guy. I've actually eaten more burgers in Madrid the past year than in 20 years in America.
Well,
but the ham is unbeatable, of course, Ramon. In particular, the one that comes from Extremadura.
Well, thank you so much, Martin, for coming here and
Thank
showing
you.
us that diamond.
Thank
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.